I hope you all enjoyed that story. Some of the questions that we might ask ourselves: what made the rainbow fish so special? Why did the other fish not like him? Why didn't the rainbow fish want to share his shiny scales? How did the rainbow fish feel after giving the blue fish one of his special scales? How and why did the rainbow fish become so very happy? After I ask these questions and have the children raise their hands to respond, I will ask if they would like to come up to the board to write their answers. After we conclude, we will go into reflecting on learning about the elements of art and principles of design. This will be information that I include probably the second week of school, just to kind of review what we've already learned. These are going to be some things that I will be teaching every year. I'll remind the students that elements are tools and principles are rules, and this is an easy way to remember them. Some of the visual art terms that we will be going over during this art lesson will be analogous color, which is analogous color scheme. In color theory, analogous colors are groups of colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. Another thing that we will be including in our project today is asymmetrical balance. This is a technique of using differing visual elements of unequal weight on both sides of a composition to achieve a sense of balance. We will also be using pattern. Pattern is repetitions that occur in some visual element, such as lines, colors, or shapes of an artwork. We will also be using contour line, which is a line which defines the outline of an object. Hatching lines, an artistic technique used to create tonal or shading effects by drawing closely spaced parallel lines. Cross-hatching lines are layering of multiple lines to achieve tone. Some literary terms that we heard in the story of the rainbow fish are peculiar, whirling, and shimmering. Peculiar is unusual and strange, sometimes in an unpleasant way. We can reflect on the story and remember when the rainbow fish felt peculiar after he shared his shiny scale. He felt different, but it didn't necessarily mean in an unpleasant way. We also heard the term whirling, which is characterized by rapid movement round and round. Shimmering, which his shiny scale shimmered, is reflecting a gentle light that seems to move slightly. Our art lesson for the day will be a rainbow fish. The art supplies needed will be paper, transparent sleeve, or aluminum foil, markers of analogous color, a sponge brush, black crayon, circle stencil, colored crayons, and iridescent paper for his shiny scale. These will be videos of me concluding the art project. Right here, I have a transparent sleeve. I probably would have used aluminum foil for this if I had it available. And what I'm doing is I'm using markers that are neighbored by one another on the color wheel. I'm using purple on one side, and I'll be using blue on the right side. And the reason we're using analogous colors is because we want the colors to blend in with one another. If we were to use, let's say, complementary colors, which are opposite of the color wheel, it wouldn't give a pleasing blended color in the center. It would more likely be brown. So analogous colors are best when they're used blended together. After we get done coloring the entire page, I will go around the class and spray their papers. That way they can put their drawing paper on top and transfer the color. Basically just smoothing out the entire surface and getting all of the liquid, the ink, the water onto the paper. What I'll be doing next is I'll be getting a sponge brush and basically spreading out the water. That way it will dry faster. Now, I would rather do this on a table or flat surface. That way the water wouldn't be dripping down, and it would probably be spread out a lot better if I were doing this on a table. But just for this demonstration, this is the only way I knew how. So since I spread the water out evenly and there were no puddles and I didn't use a whole lot of water, it was able to dry a lot faster. But I probably would have the students put their papers on a drying rack. More than likely, they would be too wet to work on right away. Circles are hard to draw perfectly. So most of the time, if I'm trying to draw a circle, I use a stencil. And really, you can just find whatever you have. It could be a bowl or a cup or a plate. So I traced a circle onto my paper, not front and center, but over to the left, center left a little bit. And then I started drawing my fins. As you can see, it's like you're almost drawing half of a circle right next to it, but you stop halfway and then you go down and curve in to the left. Now I'll be drawing the fins. And as I'm doing this, I would probably detail better at what I'm doing. But basically, not in the center of the fish, not the center of the body of the fish, but more on to the left, because the fins are pretty center of the body in general. And this doesn't have to be exactly how I'm doing it right here. I understand every student's fish is going to be different, and I really want the students' artwork to look different. It's kind of boring if they're all looking the same. Now I'm drawing the lips, and then I'll add the eye, which is a small circle inside a circle. One of the hardest things about the rainbow fish will probably be the scales. But basically, they're like ovals, but they're not completely round. It's kind of like a half oval, not a half circle, but it just goes around all the way down. I usually do a strip of these first, and then I'll go back and find the center of the edge of the scale and kind of imagine that they're dots. And you're gonna go back and connect the dots. And you'll just keep repeatedly doing this until you get to the back of the tail fin. And this does take a little while. For this drawing to look more realistic, you would probably draw your scales larger and draw them gradually smaller towards the tail fin. And that would give it more of a three-dimensional look. Really what you would be doing is you would be implying depth. I'm going to use contour directional line. The whole drawing is basically done by contour line. But you can see I'm using pattern and directional line as I'm drawing this. And I'm using shapes, a lot of circles for bubbles. And as I did the bubbles for the left side, I noticed that it needed balance. So I'm incorporating asymmetrical balance with the bubbles, the fish, and with the plant. And there you go. That's basically completion of the contour drawing. And then we'll move on to where I'll give out the students crayons and they can begin to color their drawings. I wouldn't necessarily color the drawing in front of them. I probably would go around the class as they're coloring and compliment them on their work, and if they needed any help, I would help them. Most of the time, like after I drew the circle, I would go around the room and see if everyone's placement was correct, because if the placement doesn't start off right, there won't be enough room to finish the composition, because there won't be enough paper based on where they placed their shapes. And as an artist, I decided to demonstrate balance with color. So I am incorporating balance by spreading my colors out, spreading the weight of the color out onto the paper. My art usually gravitates towards asymmetrical balance and the power of three. As you can see, it's kind of in thirds, with it being the bubbles, the fish, and then the sea life, or plant life. I keep going back and adding more color. And I really am trying to keep it all in an analogous scheme. I did incorporate some green in there, but I think that's fitting. Here, there's just a video of just more coloring. And then I thought that was going to be my finished product there. After all of the students get done with their coloring, and with this lesson, I was not able to do it in just one class period. It was broken up into two. But after they're completed with their work, I'll already have these iridescent scales cut out for them to place on their papers. This is the final product. And I believe that's it. After we get done with our project, I would probably reflect on the things that we spoke about, probably have them come to the board and with their conclusions, about what they've learned, and go over the terms again. Would be a good idea.